The Zomi flag controversy. Why it's rejected by Hmar, Mizo, and Kuki communities. In early July 2025, a photo began circulating widely on Mizo social media networks, sparking fierce debate and anger among the Mizo public. The image showed a vehicle plying from Churachampur toward Mizoram, with a Zomi flag pasted near the driver's window. Though the vehicle itself appeared to be in routine transit, its symbolic decoration quickly turned into a matter of public outrage. Mizo commenters across Facebook and WhatsApp groups strongly condemned the display of the Zomi flag on a vehicle entering Mizoram, warning that such identity symbols could provoke ethnic tension and were entirely unwelcome in the state. "Don't bring your flags here," one post read, while others emphasized that Mizoram must remain politically and culturally separate from external tribal identity movements. Though to outsiders, this might seem like an overreaction to a simple sticker, for communities in Northeast India and Myanmar, flags are deeply tied to identity, territory, and historical grievances. The Zomi flag, in particular, has come to represent an ideology that many Hmar, Mizo, and Kuki people reject often for very different reasons. What is the Zomi flag? The Zomi flag is a political symbol adopted by organizations promoting the idea of Zomi as a unified identity for various Zo-descended tribes across Northeast India and Myanmar. These include groups like the Zomi Reunification Organization, ZRO, and its armed wing, the Zomi Revolutionary Army, ZRA. The flag is often displayed during Zomi Reunification Day or hoisted in areas controlled by ZRA forces. Its supporters claim it represents peace, unity, and the shared heritage of Zo peoples. However, critics from multiple tribes say it is less about unity and more about control of force label that attempts to subsume distinct communities under one political ideology. Mizo reaction, protecting a hard-won identity. For the Mizo people, the incident was seen as more than a flag on a carrot was interpreted as an encroachment on their cultural and political space. Mizos have a well-defined state identity, codified through decades of struggle that led to the creation of Mizoram as a full-fledged state in 1987. The term Mizo includes several clans and tribes who have willingly embraced a unified identity, one that is not dependent on labels imposed from outside. The arrival of a vehicle displaying a Zomi flag at the Mizoram border struck many Mizos as a provocative act, intentionally or not. The fact that this symbol represents a political movement one that has included areas of Mizoram in their concept of Zogum, the proposed Zomi homeland, only deepened the offense. Cultural organizations, student groups, and social media voices strongly argued that Mizoram should not be drawn into the identity politics of Manipur or Chin State, and that displaying such flags within the state borders could threaten the peaceful coexistence maintained between different Zo tribes. The Hmar viewpoint, a misused identity. The Hmar tribe, historically spread across southern Manipur, Mizoram, and parts of Assam and Meghalaya, has had a complex relationship with the Zomi movement. In earlier decades, some Hmar leaders participated in efforts to unite Zo peoples under a single ethnic identity. But in recent years, many have distanced themselves from the Zomi flag and its promoters. Hmar intellectuals argue that the Zomi ideology is largely driven by one or two tribal subgroups, especially those aligned with the Tedamchin dialect and social hierarchy. As a result, Hmar customs, struggles, and history are often sidelined. Many Hmar youth today see the Zomi flag not as a symbol of inclusion, but as an attempt to erase their distinct tribal identity. In Mizoram and Hmar-dominated regions of Manipur, there's growing resistance to the idea of being bundled under the Zomi label, especially when it comes with ideological enforcement. The Hmar people maintain that unity must be voluntary and respectful of diversity, not dictated by militant or elite-driven politics. Kuki resistance, identity and territory. Among the most outspoken critics of the Zomi flag are the Kuki people, a broad ethnic grouping that includes dozens of tribes like Dadu, Simte, Gengte, Vaife, Zu, and others spread across India's northeast and Myanmar. The Kuki people have their own historic struggles, most notably the Kuki Rising, 1917-1919, against British colonial rule, and more recently, the demand for a separate administrative arrangement under the Indian Constitution. The rise of the Zomi movement, and the display of the Zomi flag in Kuki-dominated areas is viewed as a direct challenge to Kuki territorial claims and political aspirations. Leaders of Kuki National Organization, KNO, and United People's Front, UPF, which represent nearly 24 Kuki militant and civil bodies in peace talks with the government of India, have publicly dismissed the Zomi project as a narrow rival agenda. In several border areas of Manipur and Myanmar, where Kuki and ZRA forces have clashed, the hoisting of the Zomi flag has often been interpreted as a provocative act of territorial assertion. In these regions, village authorities and civil bodies have issued blanket bans on displaying the Zomi flag, citing the need to preserve local identity and prevent intertribal conflict. Allegations of flag imposition and intimidation. Beyond symbolic debate, there are numerous allegations that the ZRA uses force or intimidation to promote the Zomi flag. In parts of Chin State and southern Manipur, reports from local elders and civil groups claim that villagers have been pressured to host Zomi Day events, raise the Zomi flag, or even identify themselves as Zomi, despite not belonging to the subset of tribes who originally adopted the term. One village elder from the Singnat region, speaking anonymously in 2024, said, "They came with guns and said we must raise the Zomi flag for unity. But how can there be unity when we don't agree on who we are?" These accounts, whether isolated or systemic, feed into the larger perception that the Zomi flag represents political domination rather than voluntary identity, a flag without consensus. At its heart, the rejection of the Zomi flag across tribal lines stems from a lack of consensus and inclusive dialogue. While the Zo tribes may share ancient roots, linguistic similarities, and cultural overlap, unity does not require uniformity. What many find offensive about the Zomi flag is not its colors or symbolism, but what it tries to enforce: a single name, a singular vision, and a map of territory that is not universally accepted. The idea of Zogam, often promoted alongside the flag, includes areas historically inhabited by Kukis, Mizos, Hmars, and other tribes who were never consulted nor agreed to be part of such a reimagined homeland. The symbolic imposition of a flag, then, becomes a proxy for territorial and identity claims, triggering resistance. The bigger lesson: respect for plural identity. The Zomi flag controversy underscores an important truth for multi-tribal societies. Identity cannot be enforced, it must be agreed upon. While efforts to unify the Zo people are not inherently wrong, they become problematic when they erase or dominate other narratives. Unity among the Zo family Kuki, Mizo, Hmar, Chin, and others can only be achieved through mutual respect, historical understanding, tribal autonomy, shared platforms not impose labels. Flags, while symbolic, carry the weight of politics and history. A flag that is accepted only by a few and rejected by the majority does not serve to unite divides. The recent backlash in Mizoram shows just how emotionally charged this issue has become, and how vital it is for political movements to listen to the people they claim to represent. Conclusion: the image of a single flag on a vehicle window crossing into Mizoram has now become a symbol in itself, not of Zo unity, but of unresolved tensions. As long as the Zomi flag continues to be used without the consent of the larger tribal population, it will likely remain a symbol of division rather than solidarity. Ethnic identity in Northeast India and Chin State is deeply rooted in oral tradition, ancestral land, and self-determination. Any effort to build unity must honor this complexity, not override it with a flag that many do not recognize as their own.